here. Gosh, let's see here. Try to refresh this. Uh, uh, do you all? Is there a chance? I guess maybe that Krennic and or Kylo will shine more once once they're presumably corresponding objectives for both of them are released at all, or is it a thing where we're probably just going to need new versions at some point?
So I think Kylo is definitely going to shine after Set 8. We're working on something big for him, and I think players are really going to like it. It's a very thematic objective. It needs some work still, but it's going to definitely make Kylo a guy that you want to play 3 or 4 of in a deck. As for Krennic, we actually do have some other bigger plans for him dealing with Citric Course for Alderaan. So whether it's a new Krennic that we might make that's more catered towards that, or this one, you would have the option of playing either one. And so, yeah, I do think there's going to be a place for both of these in specific decks in the future.
Okay, cool. I guess we'll move along. Matt, do you want to start off with this Thrawn? Because I think he is inspired by the TV show, and I know you've sort of been one of the folks that's more dialed in with that. So if you want to maybe just sort of go into read him off and explain a little bit of the design thought behind them thematically and everything, go for it, and then Reed and I can jump in as needed.
Sure. So Grand Admiral Thrawn is a half-split version of the original Grand Admiral Thrawn. Imperial, power 4, ability 4, adds 3 to power of anything he pilots. If a rebel just moved from here, your Imperial's present may follow that character using land speed. While at a battleground site, functions as a general, and Admiral's orders are suspended. Deploy of 4, forfeit of 7. So we talked about the Admiral's orders part already. I'll let Reed respond to that in a bit. And then the piloting is normal, typical for him. And then if a rebel just moves here, he can have your other Imperials follow. This was something that I really liked. I think it's kind of a way to simulate how Thrawn is always one step ahead of his opponents. And this simulates wherever the rebels are going, he already knows where they're going, and the Imperials are going to be there waiting for him. So I think that's a pretty cool piece of text that, if he's working in cahoots with someone like Vader, can really do a lot of damage if you have Vader kind of following their guys around and not letting them run away. The last part, this was a cool thematic thing. We talked about ways to get him to work with Imperial commanded sites. His power is 4, up from the original being a 3, because in the TV show they have a lot of stuff with like him doing hand-to-hand combat. He's a very strong and formidable opponent. So we wanted to illustrate that with his power, and also having good on the ground at a site, so he wasn't just the guy you put on a Star Destroyer, because the old Thrawn is pretty good at just piloting a Star Destroyer. Didn't want to compete with that. So instead of just saying something weird rules-wise, like maybe targeted by Imperial command on a site, which was pretty wordy, we didn't want him to be a general because thematically he's not a general. We decided to go with an old, not very often used kind of wording that Decipher used back in Jabba's Palace, I believe, the last time, which is the functions as. So Urtug functions as a leader, and Uglos from Cloud City functions as a leader. We decided that was kind of a cool way to make him work with Imperial command on the ground, so he said functions as a general while at a battleground site, which hopefully gets some use for him, like being at sites, showing off his power and his ability to have Imperials follow people around. So I'll let you and Reed kind of talk about how much garbage this is, or what decks you might play him in.
This card is total trash. I would never put this card in any deck ever. No, just kidding. You guys did a great job on this card. I give this card an A. It's super swell. The Imp Command in space or on ground is awesome. It's kind of fun. All back when they were talking about the General Grievous card before that ever existed. Of course, in its first iteration, his name was Cyborg Commander. They didn't want to make him a general because they were afraid of, this is a general that draws Galaxy on his own. You can pull him with Imp Command, you can slap him down, you can draw 2, he can draw 2 on his own with Imp Command, or limit the opponent with Imp Command. Well, now there's 2 guys that can do that. I don't know if it's good enough in Core Lights. I can do it with Rebel Leadership and Premier Obi-Wan as well. But I don't know if it's good enough to see, some kind of Imp Command spam package where people play 4 or 5 M commands and 1 or 2 Grievous and a Thrawn, and just drop those guys to sites, pull them with the interrupt and drop them to sites, and then play the interrupt again for its effect in battle. I don't know if that's going to be good enough, even though it was something that was avoided at all costs back when Grievous was in development. But it's something to try. I think a little later on, when we discuss what's the card, Established Secret Base or whatever the Endor Ops card. Yeah, Established Secret Base. When we discuss that later, we're going to talk about how Endor Ops is looking like it's going to all of a sudden be good. Well, Grand Admiral Thrawn is the perfect fit for that deck, because of course it pulls Endor Shield with the bunker, and then Endor Shield's going to get your Thrawn and any one other admiral. So yeah, this is looking like it's going to be really good and really impactful, and really you can think about putting him in just a lot of different decks. He maybe passes the Agent Callus test, which is like if you looked at my Coruscant mains deck list from Nationals, I play Agent Callus for no other reason really than the body and the battle cry, which is just the sad state of affairs that dark side characters are in. Well, this guy is probably pretty much an upgrade over Agent Callus, so he passes that test. And so you can put him in a mains deck. You can think about putting him in a hunt down. And again, like with in commands, yeah, a lot of possibilities for this card. So I give this card a solid A. Good job. Round of applause.
Cool. One thing, Reed, maybe back up slightly from your mic or whatever. There was a little bit of echo there. Just a technical note. Beyond that, though, on the card itself, I'm just looking at my notes, and you guys basically covered everything. In the intro, Matt had mentioned, demotion potentially as a counter. I don't know that it'll see a lot of play, but it's an option if you really want your Admiral's Order to go off. You also covered the, why not just put, General into his game text or whatever. I like that. Yeah, I think potentially, in the text box, just saying General would have been okay. I do like that it's a half template slip, really, though, that we didn't put it in the lore, so I think it'll work out well as far as that goes. While we're on templating, and this is just something I just sort of noticed as I'm scrolling through the list here, because Krennic's right above him on the list. So Krennic has the brackets, pilot 2, whereas Thrawn says, has it written out, adds 3 to power of anything he pilots. Is there, what's the, I guess, sort of the design convention with that? Is
that's going to be fixed. That's going to be fixed on the PDF.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was maybe just a callback to Thrawn, sort of the way the original Thrawn, card was written or whatever. But yeah, basically, that maybe the only other thing I would have is, I could envision a scenario maybe in the Indoor Ops deck that Reed was kind of talking about, where you have Thrawn on the ground. And maybe have an Admiral's Order out, and then you shuttle them up to space to turn on an Admiral's Order or something like that. There's some interesting interactions there potentially, but that's really all I have to say. As far as that goes. So then, I guess the next thing on the list, and there's sort of, I kind of grouped all 3 of them together. Quiggled, Sidon, Ethano, and Messin Martinet.
Who are these guys from the canon? Because I was under the impression that they were the guys from episode 7, but they're not.
They are.
They're the guys from the ship with the monster in it.
No, they're not. These are the guys that...
That's from the Cantina.
They're from Maz's Cantina. These are the guys that Finn just about left with to go to the Outer Rim. They were pirates. There's some other canon comics or backstories written about them that you can read about if you're interested in learning more. But from a design perspective, if we go into this, we did kind of go back and forth on whether or not these guys should be light side or dark side. Ultimately, we settled on dark side because pirate, which is what they are technically, is already a keyword for dark side cards, and also because they're kind of taking Finn away from the mission. While they might have kind of been on Finn's side while he was trying to go away, they were really pulling Finn away from the good guys. So we decided to go with dark side for these guys. But I could actually see an argument for both ways.
Okay. I guess I think, even though, Matt, we had you kind of lead off the last card, I think because these are more, there's a lot of thematic stuff going on here, maybe if you want to take the lead again, I guess my questions would be, they have this text about, if your rep's a pirate or you didn't deploy an objective. Is that something you had in mind for the current metagame, or is that looking towards the future more so?
A little bit of both. From a design perspective, that text was put on there to encourage different CRV decks, particularly possibly Scum, like a Tatooine CRV, but also straight up help my kind of Scum as well. If you make the Hondo Anaka your rep, he's a pirate. He could give you some bonuses there if you play with Hondo and Weekway for your my kind of Scum. And we are kind of in the early talks of doing some non-unique alien versions of these two species, the Gabdoran and the Delphidian. So that is a possibility down the line. But for the most part, it's really a helper for CRV decks right now.
Okay, that's cool. And I guess I wasn't sure, if we actually had other pirates for whatever reason. So that makes more sense now. So that's cool. Reed, just sort of briefly, but both of these guys and or the ship, do you see them fitting in anywhere in terms of you're in a lot of top 8s and even final confrontation situations? Do you expect to see these guys on one side of the table in any of
I'll be cautiously optimistic about it, and I mean, maybe I can't imagine fitting them in. Like, you take a look at the CRV that I played at Nats. Would I be able to fit these guys in? Would they pull their weight? Well, the guy that has to force drain, yeah, I mean that's decent enough. But like I drain at my opponent's system for 2. I drain at my Kashyyyk system for 2, and drains of more than 2 are oftentimes overrated because of ultimatum. The other guy with the force loss text, where once per turn they place opponent's character just lost from here out of play unless opponent loses 1 force. 2 if the rep is a pirate or there's no objective. This is reminiscent of Legacy Ket Nalis, who was a rapid fire, could be used more than once a turn, and he just straight up said if opponent's character from here just lost, lose a force. And of course Legacy was a different era, but even back in that era he was a very fringe card and really only saw play I think in slavers mostly, but that text was really cool. Now, sometimes I read things backwards, and when I read this side-on card, I didn't cast the once per turn the first time I read it through, and I was like, wow, it's really good. It's like Ket Nalis again, and it could be even stronger if you don't have an objective. But then once you see it's once per turn, I mean, really, it's going to end up, and that, with the opponent having the opportunity to place the card out of play instead of take the force loss, it really puts the ball in their court so they can choose which one. I mean, there's a lot of times you can just put the guy out of play; he's not coming back. If you don't have any recursion, or it's a character that's not important to the game, you can just say Fuyon, put him out of play, and in that case, the sign-on guy really is having little to no impact on the game. So there's the force drain +1 on the one guy, which seems like it could maybe be good, but again, once you start getting into huge drain territory, you make it easier for the opponent to mitigate it. And there's the Ket Nalis from Legacy, lose a force if your guy was lost on the other guy, and that's only once per turn. And of course they're all conditional. Also, you have to either be playing Amkos or not have an objective. The damage, the Ket Nalis style damage works for 1 point of force loss, regardless of what you're playing, but really only kicks in if you're taking advantage of the Amkos or the no objective. And so, and of course, the other thing is, if you're playing combat response, you can only get one guy or the other. If you have the ship, if you short range for the ship, you can't get them all together. And maybe even if you were able to do so, you might expect a little bit more of a reward than just an extra 1 point of total BD from the text on the ship. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really cautiously optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic for Matt's sake on these guys. But yeah, we'll take a wait and see approach and see if they crack into any lists.
I thought I took your criticism from the first card pretty well. You don't need to be playing good cop here from now on. I think we're okay, Reed.
Good. So I guess with that, we'll move along here to Savage Oppress. I'll just go ahead. Dathomirian Assassin, character Sith, power 8, ability 4, so on and so forth. Once per game, may exchange a card in hand with a Sith character in the lost pile. Deploy 8, forfeit 5. He is a pilot. So right now, I think the only Siths we have are Savage and Darth Maul. There used to be the non-unique guy, but I think he got axed.
Yeah, actually, there's also Asajj Ventress.
Oh, okay. So that's good. So I mean, you could play this guy. This guy seems like he maybe. I mean, he's expensive to deploy, but maybe okay, and bring him before me. Power 8, and with Emperor's Power, you could draw 2 Destinies or whatever. That doesn't seem terrible. And then, if you play him after you played a Maul or an Asajj Ventress, you can get one of them back. The other thing you could do is just play 2 copies of Savage, and when you draw the second one, get back the first if you already lost them. Right now, being an assassin, not super useful, but potentially could be at some point. So, I don't know. It seems okay. I guess my impression is that it's kind of maybe a fringe card that'll be in some decks, maybe not a ton right now. As more Sith cards get released, if they do, certainly his value would go up. Reed, your thoughts?
I'd take a flyer on this card, maybe in some decks for a fishing Maul out of the lost pile, having essentially a 4th Maul, but a different body to go along with it. 8 force is steep, but something you can plan for. Matt, did you really need the limit -4? Like, if you have 4 Sith characters at a site, you should be able to just deploy your whole hand there if you want, because you already got the site on lockdown.
Yeah, I'm a stickler for that kind of thing. I just wanted to be better safe than sorry on it. Obviously, we just talked about how there's only 3 different Sith cards in existence right now, and one of them is this card. But we just kind of wanted to make sure that this didn't get a little out of hand with anything else we made in the future with more Dathomirians. Dathomirians do make a lot of appearances in the Clone Wars and also a little bit in Rebels, so we didn't want to kind of put ourselves in a place where eventually we're like, oh man, we can get this 8-power character for nothing. That was me being overly cautious mostly.
All right. Not a ton else to say. I guess he is a separatist, which is interesting. And that's maybe one thing I've been kind of glossing over is, all the different, there's separatists. We've got set 7 or episode 7. A lot of different icons, which could, open up or limit certain interactions or possibilities depending on, various decks that either exist or come out in the future that say you can only play these types of characters or whatever. But, a pretty straightforward card, but seems okay.
I can just add about BHBM, Brad. Like, high power draws on its own, and then not only does it draw on its own, but it's got the ability 4, so you can add with Emperor's Power. So it's 8 power and 2 draws. Seems like a natural fit.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of them, Yeah, I think you probably can make room for one, especially because you're already going to have some number of Darth Maul with sabers, more than likely. So fishing one of them out as well, not the worst thing. Matt, you had something?
Yeah, so the first thing that I thought when I saw this card was that it felt cool because it was like a Magic the Gathering common beast card, like really expensive but a really high power. Obviously has a lot of drawbacks like the low destiny and the lower forfeit for something of this caliber. But that kind of concept design-wise really pulled me in. I really like that about it. So I'm excited to kind of see who can play this card in different ways, different decks. Obviously, bringing McCormick is a good place. But Reed, let me ask you, most decks that play EPP Maul, I would say a lot of them run 3 Mauls. So let's say you're playing a deck that has 3 EPP Mauls right now. Would you consider taking out a 3rd Maul for this guy to kind of get your 3rd Maul anyway and also have a different character at the same time, running the risk of not getting your Maul early on and getting this guy instead?
Nah, man. I want 3 Dark Mauls, and then this guy can be potentially the 4th with a body attached. But I'm not taking out a 3rd Maul for this guy. No way.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, even though it'd be super expensive, you know, ability 4 on a pilot is always potentially useful in sort of a desperate situation, you know, on a Maul.
Yeah, you're real desperate for that. He doesn't even have power to ship.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen worse, but you know, having the option there, I guess, is good. Also, that means maybe it's a thing to balance him out so he gets blown out by Scramble. Was that the thought? Maybe not.
I can't say that was the intent.
Okay, fair enough. Moving along. Established secret base. Reed, you had sort of hinted at this earlier. You want to just take it away with this one?
Oh yeah, man. I'll take this card all the way. This card is hot. So it's the established secret base that flips your indoor ops objective. And I mean, here's what it says: deploy on bunker if you control that site. Immune altered. That's all it needs to say. I mean, no, it also pulls indoor sites for you, and there's, I guess, some sort of removal condition. Yeah, so the opponent can knock it out if they control the bunker. That's fine and dandy, but again, harkening back to Legacy, people who remember back when you could actually flip your indoor ops objective, that was a big thing. It was a big force in the meta, mainly because of the stellar text on the 7 side that limits the opponent to 1 battle destiny and all battles everywhere. Well, now, it looks like the D&D team is bringing Sexy back and bringing that deck back into the meta. So all you have to do is build basically whatever kind of deck you want to build off of the EOS, because it's a supremely wide open platform. You can build main space, you can do stupid Star Destroyers, really anything you want off of Vendor Ops. And now you can actually flip the objective, because in order to flip, of course, the condition is you have ominous rumors and established secret base on the table. Ominous rumors, you just deploy for 2 floors, and now you have this established secret base that can deploy for you, unlike the original one, which has some absurd deployment conditions that you have to control for your ender sites and team pool or something like that. You have to go way out of your way to do it. This allows you to flip the objective, so. I think it was as recently as like maybe it was a couple NPCs ago. People were playing Endor Ops mains. You can take a deck like the CRV that I won't stop talking about, and you can play a very similar deck off of Endor Ops instead, and gain there are definitely some advantages to playing Endor Ops as your platform. First and foremost being that you can alt start according to my design to get an Emperor on the table against Throne Room, and then of course once you're flipping the objective, you're talking about getting the battle destiny limitation. So I think that this is a big time splash card, and people are going to start building indoor ops decks right away, and you'll see a lot of that as soon as the set hits.
So I actually can't even pretend that D&D can take credit for this. This is actually a player card. Development saw this and liked the concepts. It's literally establishing a base by getting your sites out. I'm also excited to kind of see what people can do for a flip indoor ops. First time we've seen that in a long time.
Yeah, I just, I think it might be Matt Sokol's card. I saw him asking if people liked it on the forum, so I just interpreted that as it probably being his card.
That's one of the ones that's played that has played mains off of Vendor Ops. Like he was one of the ones I had in mind when I made that comment, because I know I can't remember when it was, if it was this past NPC or maybe even 2 NPCs ago. But that's a deck he's been known to play as mains off of Vendor Ops.
Yeah, definitely. I really like the simplicity of this card. I mean, in some ways, it's almost like the the stolen data tapes or whatever in the deck that starts the Tanev. it's kind of a MacGuffin. You just sort of need it out there, but I mean that's fine. I like that there's not 10 lines of text tacked on just because you can. Basically, one line how you deploy it, one line how you cancel it, and one line it does something, and that's it. So yeah, good card. It'll definitely open up some new avenues. So pretty cool. That's really, I guess that's really all I have on it. So if no one has anything else, we'll maybe jump on down to the next rare indoor effect that got virtualized. Security precautions virtual. Deploy at a location. Your force generation is +1 here, so that is similar to the non-V. Unless opponent occupies a battleground site, Carillion Engineering Corporation is suspended. Lame. Once per game, you may restore a just hit starship to normal. Also pretty lame. Alright, so immune to alter. So
for the listeners, if you don't realize, Brad played quads at the NPC this past year.
Yeah, it was glorious. Oh my gosh. I haven't had that much fun in years.
Your opponents probably haven't had that little fun in years.
Oh yeah, it's like that's what's fun though, is just making someone maybe just not want to play Star Wars cards anymore. No, it's all things being equal, this is a card that probably should exist. It doesn't straight up completely stop, the quads and everything. If you want, you can try to set up, some sort of, guy on a speeder or, EPP at the forest or something, to get it in effect. Interestingly, my guess is the intent, was to sort of shut down the bonus to the weapon draw, but it really actually will have a function of sort of choking, because the various deploy bonuses and reductions given by Carillion Engineering Corporation as well. It gives, restoring a hit ship once per game gives you a chance to get out there and try to probe a little bit, which is good. Maybe one of the things that's sort of interesting is what will happen, because there's another hidden base deck that's had some success here and there, this Brian Fred, Matt Scott sort of snub fighters or whatever, and it definitely, I think, would maybe want to see that your opponent is not running the security precautions that makes you lose 10 force or whatever. So that's an interesting deck building decision. Although I think for most decks it'll probably be pretty obvious which one makes sense for each deck. Matt, maybe you wanna talk about the design behind it. Read maybe when you'll think it'll be played.
Sure. So the first part about the generation, we wanted to keep the generation on there because we didn't want the decision to come down to, do I play the old one for generation or the new one for protection against quads? So I want to make sure that they were on an even playing field for that. This one protects you against weapons, and the other one protects you against battle damage. It does a little bit of things as well. So I wanted it to be a deck building decision for players. If quads are a bad matchup, then you can play this one. If you're not too worried about that, then you can play the other one instead. One other thing development said is they thought that quads, so we were in pretty much unanimous agreement with development that quads were a problem. We wanted to do something about them. So one thing though that they said was that they didn't really need like the hammer dropped on them. They just needed a little shove. So that's what the suspension of CEC does. Hopefully it's just enough of a shove to make the deck not as NPE, maybe give them a chance to go to a battleground site and play on both theaters. Hopefully, it does that. And like you mentioned, the choke as well, I think is a pretty underrated aspect. It takes a couple, two, I think, away from the weapon destiny bonus, but also the using extra force to fire them too. And then the last part is about restoring a just hit starship to normal. I want to note for the rules, people out there, players interested in the rules, that this actually does not work against an X-Wing cannon that uses 3 to fire because it does not hit them, it makes them lost instead. And it also does not work against Stay Sharp, which also says that the starship is lost, not hit. So those two things, this will not work against. So just to kind of get that out there, so no one's surprised by a rolling coming up with Worlds or something like that.
That's kind of counterintuitive. I was expecting it to work against Stay Sharp.
So honestly, originally we designed it to work, and then later on Rules was like, hey, so these aren't going to work with X-Wing Cannon or with Stay Sharp, and we said, that's, we don't want to break the rules, change the rules, we don't want to reword this in a confusing way. We said that's all right. X-Wing Cannons haven't really been a problem in the game, like a deck like the Quads was, so we were okay with X-Wing Cannons still having a little bit of some punch. I mean, thoughts, because I know Reed has strong feelings about Quads.
I'm in love with that deck. That deck is amazing. I don't know who likes it more, me or Brad. We worked on it. I think I basically talked Brad into using the deck for the NPC.
He did.
Yeah.
Told him how he could beat Huntdown, and then he faced Casey Ennis's Huntdown.
Yeah, I mean, part of that, Reed definitely, and Reed also came through with some pretty good, technology. The last 5 card slots or whatever, there were about 15 cards in consideration, I think. And there's a lot of sort of research and psychology and kind of high level thinking on putting someone on a deck like Huntdown, but I felt pretty good that that Casey was going to play some sort of dark main deck more than likely. With the new Vader card and stuff. So, given that, precautions, or I'm sorry, the Quads deck seemed pretty cool, and some of the cards were able to get in, like the End of a Reign. It's definitely a nice one. But anyway,
I'm actually willing to hear Michael Orton's opinion on the security precautions card.
Won't he just donate a bunch of money and make a card that counters it?
I guess if that works.
I think so.
In discussing this card with players at Nats, there was one individual who expressed that he didn't think this card was good enough, didn't do enough to take the quad deck down a peg or the appropriate number of pegs. But I think it is. I think it would get the job done. Combined with the deck is still really gonna mop up people who are unprepared. Scrubs who don't know how to play against the deck. They're still gonna get stomped, and they're still gonna hate their life and wish and want to quit Star Wars after facing it. And this is not a no-brainer kind of counter that you can just throw in your deck and really have a massive leg up. You still need to have a game plan and effective counterplay, or all your ships are going to be in the lost pile, and your opponent's going to be flipped, canceling all your force drains and retrieving their entire lost pile while you can't draw.
So I do like the idea of counter cards that give the other deck options and give the deck that's being countered some chances to try to overcome that. That in Star Wars we've seen often cards that just straight up basically cancel other cards and everything. Having some back and forth is good. I mean, certainly we've seen instances of that kind of being taken to its extreme. I recalling back to virtual Bane Malar, where you can't cancel drains, and then we have the entrenchment or whatever, where you don't cancel the drain. You reduce it to 1, and that's because the card's suspended minus phase or whatever. Counters to counters to counters. But something like this, I think is probably all right. Although on a personal level, kind of bummed out that there will be fewer free wins, I suppose.
I think so. Right now, I just learned about this not working against State Sharp, that's definitely going to get somebody to rage quit at some point. Somebody who didn't realize, and then they try to make it work. But I mean, I understand looking at it why it doesn't work, but perhaps there should have been an effort made to make it work, because it just makes sense that it should.
What about X-Wing Cannon? I think that's different.
Would you say?
Do you think that the interaction with X-Wing Cannon was any different than Stay Sharp, or do you think it's just
Stay
Sharp?
I looked up the text to Stay Sharp a couple minutes ago. I didn't look up the text to X-Wing Cannon. I can't. I mean, what does it say? Oh, no, it says that the starship's immediately lost, right?
It says Starship lost instead.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference. But I understand. It looks to me like the Stay Sharp, the interrupt says hit target is lost, and that's an automatic. It doesn't. I don't know, though. I still feel like there should be a window of opportunity for an optional response.
I think that's what it was. So I'm not a rules guru by any means, but I think that optional response window is kind of the reason why it wouldn't work.
It's too late, because the automatic response of hit target is lost, that happens before you can have any option to respond with saving it.
Right.
Too bad.
Would there, just sort of thinking out loud and playing sort of Monday morning design quarterback here, I guess, on a Wednesday night, what if there was text that instead I don't know, like once per game you could just, I don't know, cancel a Starship Weapon Destiny or something. Certainly there's a million ramifications we can't get into now, but functionally, at least on a
conceptual maybe if there's like an ability 2 character that you could put on a starship that said, you can lose a force to cancel weapon destiny targeting that starship, and maybe if that ability 2 character also countered, another like very popular light side space strategy. But oh wait, that's right, only light side can have cards like that.
Yeah. So. We had at least 10 pages of discussion on how to make this card, and we talked at great length about doing that, about making a Theron net mirror for the dark side. And in the end, we opted to go with this. So maybe it's because we hate dark side, maybe it's not.
Seems like it probably is.
Could just resurrect Gala Yeens from Legacy. I'm making all the rules too. I hope you people who weren't around for these cards have like your holodeck loaded up with the Legacy box check, so you can see what the flip I'm talking about with all these old cards.
Yeah, we definitely brought up Gala Yeens as well. He was also part of that conversation. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it's a tricky subject. I mean, the Starship weapons have really been kind of one of the things at the forefront, since the reset. The TIE gun was dominant for so long after the reset and everything, and then the rise of quads and some different things like that. They're just they're a very hard card to deal with. Just given sort of the nature of decks and how the game plays and everything. So it's never an easy thing to do to try to counter them or whatever. So but anyway, let's go ahead and jump down to this Spectre of the Supreme Leader.
You guys, I gotta AFK for a couple minutes. I gotta let the dog out. So if you guys want to lead into this, and I'll join whenever you join. I'll give you a heads up.
Sure, that's cool. So anyway, I actually was going to have Reed introduce this one, just because it looks like this is going to go over "You Want This, Don't You," which would be good to have finally have a realistic, good virtual card over that card. Reed's iteration never really got off the ground.
Another Legacy reference from listeners.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of sort of the Kylo Ren version of the Phantom Menace. lose no force to Kylo Ren or his lightsaber, and then you can place it in the lost pile to take him or his saber into hand if they're just lost. Matt, I guess the question is, it seems like this card, this sort of hinted at, Kylo Ren objective coming in the future. I would. Is it safe to assume this card would be kind of a centerpiece, maybe, of that strategy?
It's not a center. I wouldn't say that. So this doesn't have direct synergy with the objective. You can see all the synergy that this card has by not letting you lose force to Kylo or his lightsaber. We've tossed around ideas for making another Kylo that also, like the current one, makes you lose force. For doing something this would prevent that as well. But really, I mean, we wanted to have like the Destiny 7 hologram to represent Snow. It's a pretty sweet concept that Decipher started with Visage and went to with the Phantom Menace as well. So, we wanted a way to get Kylo's lightsaber back because, a lot of decks nowadays are looking for ways to play their lightsaber more than once. Light side decks can play 2 copies of Luke's lightsaber just waffling it back. Dark side decks now buying your father. So we wanted to fill that kind of design space too and make sure that Kylo saw play. The big thing is we wanted to make a high destiny card like this that would help people play Kylo because, as Reed has talked about a lot, Kylo's just not good enough on his own. He sees fringe play here and there, but I hope a card like this will help him see quite a bit more play. As good.
I'm back. Are we done speaking, Matthew?
Sure, Reed. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, my comment on this, I think my initial response to this card when you first showed it to me was that I said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're making Kylo work like he always should have." Like, there's no excuse for why you should ever lose force to force to your own card. You compare Kylo to Oromarco, and Oromarco's a scrub character. Oromarco deals damage only to the opponent, and that's just such a deterrent to putting this guy into your deck. So, I mean, starting off with that's the very least you could do is to make it so that players aren't going to lose force to their own Kylo Ren for putting him out. Now, the other line of text about taking him back into hand, I didn't pull it off in our cube that we had in Nats where we played with these cards. I did end up with the Spectre. I got stuck with it, actually. It was like the second time around the table, and it's like, oh, well, whatever, it's Destiny 7. And unfortunately, that was the first pack, and so I was able to look for Kylo throughout the draft, but I only came up with 1 copy of him. So I never pieced it all together, but I do think it might be sneaky good. Yeah, we'll see what happens with your fabled future objective for Kylo. For right now, I still don't think this is going to break through, but the character recursion is intriguing.
Yeah, Reed, you were out when I mentioned this, but I did note that it's good to see finally some good virtual text over "you want this, don't you?" For once.
Womp womp.
All right. Yeah, I don't really have much to add that doesn't involve trolling. Yeah, it was cool to see Kylo Ren and Johnny Chu's Dark Deal deck that destroyed me in the NPC, but I do think, so far he's been a little underserved. I guess it sounds like, the Kylo objective is already being tested and stuff. Is there any concern that by the time it comes out, we'll have basically another movie to draw on? Has there been any discussion about maybe delaying it and just having it be more of an Episode 8 theme?
I was going to say that there might basically we might be ready for another reset.
Whenever people ask about that, I do mention every 2 to 3 years there is some sort of reset or sort of large-scale, change of virtual texts. And the reset was 2014, so, never say never, like Beaver says. Anyway.
I think there was a question there about the objective.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What was the question again? Can you remind me? I got sidetracked by the thoughts of the reset.
We're going to have Episode 8 material then, right?
So Set 8 currently is hoping to be released around October, which would be before Episode 8 is out. So I would say the plan is for players to get a very big set with some new objectives coming out at least 2 months before the NPC, and at least 1 month, probably 2 months before episode 8 comes out.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. I mean, certainly, I would guess then. So there'd be an October set, and then what, like an April set, probably set 9, which would maybe be the first appearances of some episode 8 cards, tentatively, something like that.
So close to that, my hope is to release it sooner than April, because I would really like to kind of jump on the train of episode 8 stuff like as soon as we can. I don't expect set 9 after episode 8 to be a very big episode 8 set, but I do want to get like some of the new flavor in from that movie into the set as soon as we can after it's released. So I'm hoping for something like March for that, but it's going to depend a lot on how the movie turns out and what kind of ideas we have in design.
Okay, cool. Reed, you want to go ahead and introduce the Punishing One?
Why would I introduce this card? I mean, I'll do it, Bradley, but I don't know why I got picked to do this. It's on my card. It looks like, is it Bill Kafer's card? Is that correct?
That's a really good guess, man.
No, I have the. This is the one of the very few cards that I actually have on my cheat sheet. I have his name next to, so that must have been spoiled somewhere.
I think Bill may have spoiled it. Yeah, this is Bill's card.
So I tried to it took me a while to get interested enough to actually look up and see like which Dengar you're going to slap on here and what all he does. I guess the one that you're going to play is the virtual one, Virtual Dengar. So he adds 2 to power, and that's it. That's all he does. He's ability 2, and he's not going to draw Destiny on his own. He deploys for 3. This ship deploys for 2, but then Corellians deploy -2 aboard, and Dengar is of course one of those. So you're going to get the whole thing for like 3 force, 6 power, ability of 2, and immune nutrition less than 5. And then you're going to get, and it's only 6 power because of the game text of the ship itself. It says power +2 when it's got a Corellian pattern. And then you're going to get like the Admiral's Order 8. So I guess that's why you would play this, is to put your opponent's Admiral's Order in their use pile. But then again, why aren't you just playing your own Admiral's Order, especially if you're playing matching ships?
Yeah.
I don't have much to add from the design perspective because it is a player card, as we know. So
Yeah.
I just hope that people play any methods necessary to try this out. See if they can play with the new Dengar as well, and have a ship in space. Put someone like I believe Yade Marak. I think no, is he Yade Corellian? Or did I make that up?
I don't know. When I
Sounds good. I like that. Go with it.
Yeah. The other Corellian.
Yeah, he is. He is.
He is?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Well, there you go. My thought when I saw the Corellian text is this will be pretty cool. Can you win this in Sabak and then put Han on it for -2?
Sounds okay to me.
Yeah, that's legit.
Okay.
So if you wanted to deploy Han for 2 force cheaper, that's one way to go about it.
I guess, but then it only has immunity less than 3, so all right.
And yeah, I started to like think about like putting this in Court or something, but Court's not going to stop playing Dengar with gun. It's really tough to compete with a card like that, with a persona like Dengar. Yeah, and I won't bring up Legacy again, because we know the old Dengar and the old Punishing One and Legacy were legit.
Yeah,
like added 3 to attrition or something. It was super cheap.
Yeah, I did like that card Legacy quite a bit.
Alright, dudes. Well, that is it for Darkside, because...
Oh my gosh, we're only halfway through.
Yeah. Because apparently the spoiler list forgot to include Bor Gullet, which is a glaring omission that I hope is remedied.
I had to look up what that was. I didn't even remember that part of the real one.
Oh man.
That's the best part!
Someone had told me a great idea.
The best part is the gratuitous ass shot of Daisy Ridley as she climbed up the mountain at the end of the movie.
Someone had a great idea that I didn't take advantage of. They told me that I should put on the spoiler list, just like make up a card and call it, this is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel, and then you just cut it at the last minute.
Oh, wait, I just conflated
Yeah.
Rogue One with Episode 7. I don't know what the best part of Rogue One was.
Yeah, but speaking of Rogue One, maybe this is the best part. These two fellows, Baze Malbus with Cannon. So, he is Dracilian Commando Virtual, character Rebel, power 4, ability 3, armor 5. If about to be lost, may fire his cannon. His cannon, you add 1 if targeting a character of ability less than 3. Target hit and forfeit equals 0 if Destiny plus 1 is greater than defense value. Deploy 4, forfeit 5. So, a couple things kind of jump out. If you've pulled all your locations out of your deck, he basically auto hits anyone that's ability 2.
Yeah, why are we picking on scrubs?
I mean,
I'm picking on low ability scrubs. Enjoy it.
Yes.
That's
Thematics does not always translate to gameplay.
yeah.
I think so. Here's the thing: the death rattle part of him, when he can fire the cannon again, I think is going to be a very underrated part of his text. If any of you guys out there played Wars TCG, and I know a lot of you guys did, I know Reed did, you could fire weapons.
Lol.
I still have 2 decks put together, man. Anytime you want to play.
I'm down. I have a whole box of cards. So, one thing that was a different rule change they made in Wars is that you could fire your guns as a top-level action at any point in the battle, even after they forfeit people, as long as you haven't fired that gun yet. This somewhat mimics that in that you can fire during the damage segment, which is something you can't do otherwise in Star Wars. So, if you have a specific guy that you want to make sure that you kill, this gives you not only an extra shot, but you can do it after they forfeit someone else for attrition. So, it's a lot of decisions that can happen on who's forfeiting whom when, who you want to target with both times with this gun, and I think it's going to lead to some really interesting things. And I think that's a pretty underrated part.
So it also works like if Vader's going to choke him to try to like not get fired at, you still get your shot in, basically.
Yeah, if they try to choke him and he's going to be immediately lost, then you can fire the cannon.
That's cool. That's cool. He is an ability 3 rebel, so he gets bumped up by you got a lot of guts coming here. Maybe not super relevant, but not bad. It is a cannon that cannot target vehicles. What's the thought behind that?
Probably just didn't want to call it a blaster, right? You don't want it to be a blaster. What else is it going to be?
Yeah.
Well, technically, so the vehicle thing, I don't know if I have a good answer for that gameplay-wise or thematics, but the technical name
Text-based.
is, well, maybe text-based was it. I honestly don't remember at this time. The technical name is the MW35C cannon or something like that. So technically it's not a blaster. So we weren't going to make it a blaster because it's not one.
That's fair. So, yeah, I guess really just sort of a thought for the crowd, or maybe a question, I guess. Where do we see this fitting in anywhere specifically? Will this guy get played, or is like the ability 3 part where he doesn't draw Destiny on his own, is that enough of a concern where he might not fit into some decks? Really, anyone who has any thoughts on that, just chime in.
I could see him fitting into Diplo. I think
Where would you say, Matthew, he is in relation to Captain Cassian and Diplo?
I would probably still play Cassian. I played Cassian in my Diplo at Nats. I'd probably still play Cassian over this guy. But there may be other guys that I would take out for Baze. In my list from Nationals, I think I could take out a guy like Tycho. There's probably a few other card slots. I would try to fit him in for sure, because he's got good numbers. And especially if you're playing Guts in your Diplo, which a lot of people say you should, because against Scum, he gets a little bonus from that too. So I would try to find room in Diplo. Yeah, if you're playing one of the high character versions.
Doesn't have outstanding numbers though. Baze doesn't with a high deploy cost of 4.
Yeah, but if you're playing Guts, then he's got a 5 power, 6 forfeit.
Who plays Guts? Not the only people that play Guts are people that are trying to counter Scum.
There are some Java's Palace builds at Diplo where they're playing like the Audience Chamber, Java's Palace, and maybe the other 2-1 lower passage or something like that to take advantage of the power +2 and 4+2 to all your rebels is really free. So those decks are out there. You would see play in that deck for sure.
Yeah. All right, sort of a fringe card of sorts. Matt, you want to maybe talk about Chirrut Imwe a little bit? I know in our last video, you had talked about him, and he just, there were so many ideas folks had floating around. So this is what looks like what what was finally agreed upon. So I'd like to get your thoughts, on sort of the design perspective and everything, and where he might fit in.
So this is possibly my favorite card in this set. I love the recirculate mechanic that he has. You alluded to a lot of the ideas that we had. So after last set, when we cut him, because we weren't really confident in what we had at the time, I went back to the design team, and I said, guys, let's look at all the comments that have been made from playtesting and development guy. Let's come up with something different, kind of like keep our favorite parts of it, which was the recirculate, was one thing I was personally insistent on keeping, because I think that's a great piece of text. And the design team got the rest of it put together. We added the Death Rattle as well, like the rest of the Rogue One guys have. And if the battle is just initiated here, maybe get the top card of any reserve deck, either return it or place it on top of owner's force. So that can work both ways. You can do it as a light side player if you don't like your destiny to kind of activate a force, or you can also do it against the opponent, and they need to think like, I need to save an extra destiny this battle, or he's going to move it to my force pile and I won't get a destiny. So there's some interesting things going on with both sides there. And the recirculate, I love this piece of text, because you can have your whole turn, like you activate everything and your opponent's like, all right, he's got no reserve deck, he's not going to battle me. And you play a bunch of guys, and then you play Chirrut, and you recirculate, and you've got a full deck full of destinies. I love it. I think it adds a ton of options. I would be playing this in Diplo, in Throne Room, in a lot of different decks. I really like the guy.
Reed, let me ask, does that recirculate? Would that help? You had that Spaceport Speeders deck. Would this card fit into that at all, or has that deck been sort of, is that not a deck?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. That text definitely that fits right into that. And when I was building that deck for Worlds last year, I looked into the Descent into the Dark card that has the same effect. The thing about this card is that it's once per game. It's not, so Chirrut can just be on the table and kind of have that. You can have that recirculate in your pocket for when you need it most. Like Matt's example was, you play a bunch of dudes and then you play Chirrut and recirculate. Well, if Chirrut's already out, you don't need to play in the turn that you use him. You can just sit there and camp until you really need it most. And so yeah, in the Spaceport Speeders, it's a natural fit. It's too obvious to not play. I don't know if Matt, if you really think he's good enough to play in Throne Room, you can see about that. I think he's going to end up at just about any version of Diplo. And yeah, he's just a solid enough character that you can play in other crap like OA or QMC or whatever, and like I said, keep that recirculate in your pocket for those late game scenarios where you only have so many cards in your deck and you need everything to spend force to do what you want to do on your turn, and that's where he'll really start to shine, which I think is pretty cool. Kind of thematic thing about this card is that as the force dwindles, he kind of shines a little brighter on both sides with the battle initiation text. If your opponent is down to low teens or lower in life force and they're counting every last little card, that can be a major thorn in their side to keep that in mind if battles are happening at the same location as Chirrut. So yeah, pretty cool card.
Yeah, I didn't realize, for some reason, I guess I just sort of assumed that he was like Descent in the Dark. He recirculates when you deploy him, so that's a good observation. I think that does make it a lot more valuable. The take bays into hand or retrieve them. Does that increase the likelihood that you would put bays in certain decks? I mean, it sounds like Diplo. You're going to play both of them, uh, but other decks still maybe not bays, maybe just not quite strong enough, or does this give you reason enough to maybe try to fit him in?
Well, there's a ton of options there, which is awesome, and that's what I like to see. And the light side has had this embarrassment of riches for quite some time, and they just keep getting more and more. So I like to see more. I like to see more on the other side of the force. But yeah, and especially in a deck like Diplo that already plays 25 characters. I mean, you can play. You're probably going to want to put Chirrut and Baze in, but you got to make some cuts somewhere. So you're going to be cutting, little cards like Torn Far or something. I can't imagine like cutting a guy like Nera because he draws. You just have to cut some little guys.
I couldn't imagine cutting Trooper Chad.
Yeah, Tycho maybe. But those Iranians are fierce.
Yeah,
they did work, man.
They did, at least for a while. So okay. This card's pretty cool. I like it. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. Next, we've got Depa Balaba, which I think was spoiled. It's Cam's player card. In that it's a player card, design maybe doesn't have a ton of involvement. Reed, you want to talk about this one at all? Your thoughts on it?
Oh, gee, what does it do? Okay, so she's a Giant Master that's not immune to attrition. Deploy 4, forfeit 6, power 4, ability 7. So she's got really low forfeit, too. She's got the text about 2 lightsaber icons. If two light side force icons are here, then one string in control phase may draw a top card of reserve deck. And if there are at least 2 dark side force icons there at her location, then was she like a Towels? Is that what that is?
Pretty much, yeah.
She's
all right. So she's like a card draw engine. So am I like expected to play her in Throne Room and then maybe pull her with one of my extra Speak with the Councils so I can draw cards during my control phase? I don't know. What did Cam have to say about this card when he spoiled it?
I don't remember when he spoiled it.
Did anybody?
Yeah.
I read Cam. I read your thing too, man. But there's just so much reading, and I don't remember exactly what you said about it.
Yeah, I mean, the part I remember from his write-up was just sort of the thematics of, when they sort of did away with the sort of the legacy or the legends or whatever, and kind of rebooted the expanded universe. She got a new backstory, and he wanted this to reflect that in terms of actual gameplay, mechanic wise or anything. I don't off the top of my head recall what his thought was on that. I mean it seems pretty obvious, potentially there's sort of, you can park her at the Jedi Council chamber or whatever, have her draw cards, that type of thing, or you get
the other location that works for her is the city outskirts for whatever deck might play that. Of course, the deck that's most likely to play that is Diplo, and you can't play her because she's episode 1.
Right. Yeah, and then I mean, I guess you get her in a battle, and she's an expensive Towels, protects more important people, I suppose. I mean, maybe you play a copy of her.
That doesn't even work everywhere. It only works where there's 2 dark side force icons.
I guess she'd be good in combat, right? Just as another, blaster deflection type card, essentially, to keep your.
Yeah, if that were a deck, yeah.
Yeah. If it were a deck. So hypothetically, she'd be good at that, I guess.
If a nightclub deck ever reemerges, then she could be good there. She does both of her things at the nightclub as well, and you can put her at the JCC with the Speak.
Great. All we need is reemergence of Son V.
That's a drum you've been banging for years, and I don't think it's coming back anytime soon. I could be wrong, though.
Is anyone keeping track of how many legacy references we've got tonight?
I can't believe it.
Several.
No, they've all been for me too. I'm comparing everything to Legacy tonight. I didn't even plan this.
Well, you hate the reset though, don't you, Reed? So.
No, man, the reset's great. I love it. We wouldn't have gotten 30-some players for Nats if it wasn't for the awesome, amazing reset.
All right. Fair enough.
Besides, nobody wants to be playing AT RTs, right? Isn't that what they were?
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah, forget those. Those things are terrible.
Yeah. So, all right.
And there's another one.
So Depa, Depa Bilaba, we're not sure where she fits in, but oh wait, she doesn't work in combat. Hit non-Jedi character, so never mind. Yeah. So.
Oh man, now my head explodes trying to think about if she'll save Lando from going to the use pile at the 3-2 side. I don't think she will.
Huh. Interesting. But all right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Moving right along, we've got Dice Ebigon. He is premier alien, rare 2, so everyone I'm sure has several copies. Power +2 at a Jabba's Palace or indoor site. If just lost, place them in your use pile, so sort of like a mirror of Mayo. If opponent is about to draw Destiny for an interrupt targeting your character here, opponent must first lose a force, then shuffle their reserve deck. Alright, so not really sure where the indoor text comes in. I'm sure there must be some sort of thematic thing. I know this is a player card, as far as that goes.
Being from a forest planet, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, the most obvious use is probably in a QMC deck to kind of help against Force Lightning. I guess, you know, I'm sure there's some other use cases as well. Reed, maybe any thoughts on other decks besides QMC where this guy, you know, might deserve a spot?
No, man, I've just been over here racking my brain trying to come up with some sort of pun where, like, you leave this card on the pillow after, like leaving a girl because you know, like, Dice, I be gone. It just didn't work out.
Fair enough.
I mean, we don't have much else to say about the card.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Every time there's a new set of spoilers, I always wonder, you know, if there's helpers for agents in the court. You know, all things being equal, that deck in a few different forms was one that for a couple years there led to a lot of success for, you know, me. I know you Reed, you know, and Nate Meeker, and really the whole crew. You know, first with a bunch of broken aliens, and then just starting Obi-Wan a year later. This one,
you know, I can say that this card has inspired design to look into some more agents in the court helpers, and specifically with Florin Lamproids, which is Dice's species. So there is possible something I think comes down the line in the near future.
All right, I like.
Is this the de facto best rep then, or is there a better rep for light side?
I actually want to leave the options open. I want to have a few different reps, a few different good non-unique aliens, so players can kind of choose if they want a deck with each different alien's skill set. So this would be one of the
It's really tough to do, though, and still make the deck any good at all. Like, isn't there always going to be a clear front runner? If the deck is actually, like, playable, there's always going to be a clear, like, best rep.
I think that's kind of a debate about how the meta shifts nowadays. You know, we have a lot fewer players than we had in the 90s, so the meta shifts a lot slower. But I could see if there were 3 different aliens that each had their own thing to offer, over time, different builds with different species could come around.
Yeah. There's some potential there. It's always, I do not envy you, Matt. Just given, you know, how crazy certain alien cards got. referring back legacy again here, but the last virtual set 7, this current one's much better than that one in sense of nothing overtly broken, like basically every card in that set was. So good work there. But it's you all definitely have a challenge, trying to make these types of fringe decks, good enough where they'll get played, but not, to the point where they're oppressive. And it's so difficult sometimes. How do you make a stack of random aliens be able to hang with Darth Vader or an AT-AT? So.
Dude, OG set 7 was legit. There was nothing broken in there. That's where evac first came out. Stuff didn't start getting broken until set 8.
Oh, was it 8 that was really degenerate?
8 was just the complete jump off a cliff. Yeah, the original Tannin was probably the strongest card in set 7. That was back when they deployed for like 2 force or sometimes 3, I think, and had an icon on both sides.
Was original set 7 where Boba Fett special edition Persona only was in?
Oh, I don't think so. I could be wrong though, but I think that was another set 8 special.
Okay.
Set 7 had like Prince, the old Prince Iser, or however you say that guy's name.
Okay.
That made everybody an agent.
Okay, fair enough. Moving along, back to the current set 7, General Leia Organa. Matt, thoughts?
So I'm pretty excited for this card too. We've been wanting to make a General Leia since episode 7 came out. Cool by strike planning, obviously, works with rebel leadership on the ground. And then she's one of the Admiral's orders, suspend people that we talked about earlier. And whenever you initiate a battle with a resistance character, retrieve 1 force. 2 if initiating as the first order character. So she can use Anakin's lightsaber. She can retrieve for initiating with herself or with other resistance guys like Solo or Chewie or Poe. I think she's good, and she's going to get better as we get more resistance guys out. And I really like how she gives you a real option between playing her and Leia Rebel Princess.
In what deck does she give you that real option? OA? Is there any other deck?
I think, over time, as we might see some more general-oriented builds with strike planning, I think she could see play in a variety of decks. I think I would consider her in Rebel Strike Team. I'd have to think about some more, but I know for sure I'd consider her in OA, like you said.
That's what I was thinking about earlier, was what deck this card goes in, because in order for her to overtake Leia RP in OA, you have to initiate like 6 battles if your opponent's not playing first order. Like, Leia RP is a cancel of a drain of 2 and a retrieval of a card that's not retrieval. So that's a 6-card swing. And so in order to get that out of GLO here, you gotta retrieve, or you gotta initiate 6 different battles and retrieve 1 force and pay for it every time also. So then I started to look at the other text, and of course the Admiral's Orders thing is one of the big things that she does, but that's also counterintuitive with the standard OA play style and game plan, which is to play 3 copies of combined fleet action and use that to pull your combat vehicles, and then limit your opponent to 1 battle destiny in battles at Jakku sites with aforementioned Admiral's Order. So she blocks that out, and I'm like, wow, I'm really like going out of my way to get this 1 force retrieved for initiating battles, and it only works with resistance characters, which, the next couple of cards that we'll go over here, they're new resistance characters, but we still kind of have a dearth of those.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
You're right in a lot of ways, and I will say we are specifically trying to encourage players to move away from the speeders build. We want to make cards that don't synergize with it, that encourage you to be present at Jakku sites. So I'm hoping that a non-speeders build emerges, and I'm hoping that she's a key part of that.
In the speeders build, though, couldn't you just stash her at the Twix? and get to keep your Admiral's Order and get the retrieval if you wanted it?
No, so the isn't a battleground, so she wouldn't work there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so that wouldn't be too good. Fair
So
enough.
let's talk about the other resistance guys if we can right now, because I think I kind of think of all the resistance ones together.
Sure.
There's
Go
two
ahead.
majors here, Major Callian Emmett and Major Taslin Brantz. Emmett can deploy -2 as a react to an episode 7 site, and he's got a weird pseudo maintenance cost. At the end of each turn, you must use 2 force, lose 2 force, or return him to your hand. So it could be good to take him back in the hand and react for 2 next turn, or you might want to keep him there at the site, but it'll cost you a little extra. I think he's a neat little card. He's got some good numbers, some good stats. And then Brantz is a more of like a, I guess you could almost say he's like an information broker type. He's like a communications guy for the resistance. So if opponent just looked at cards in any deck or pile, you can peek at the top card after they put it back. And then start your control phase. If the top card of your lost pile was a resistance or resistance starship, opponent loses a force. So this guy also encouraging you to play as many resistance cards as you can. But I'm curious what you guys think about these guys as we're kind of fleshing out more resistance characters in the game.
When I first looked at the reacting guy, Caluan, I was like, why didn't they just make it a maintenance card? But then I realized that it's at the end of each turn, so it's going to work on the opponent's turn too. So he's going to get bounced a lot, or he's just going to be like a little mini spiral on the ground, just coming down for his stats. That's a good card, and it's something for sure that I think OA can use with love. It's going to be great in OA. Good card there for that deck. And then the other dude, I like his damage text. When I saw that, it caught my eye right away, and I'm thinking about ways to like abuse it outside of OA. But most decks, OA barely has enough resistance characters as it is, let alone any other deck. So that's probably primarily where he's going to be used. But his text is cool, and when you think about it, it's going to kick in a lot. If your opponent is battling you on their turn, then you can strategically forfeit people during their battle phase, so that you'll have a resistance character at the top of your lost pile come your control phase, which is just 3 phases or 4 phases later.
Yeah, just sort of echoing. I kind of like these guys maybe a little more than Leia, really. Yeah, the React guy's interesting. I'm maybe not as big a fan of him as you two seem to be, but I definitely see where he'd fit in potentially. The other guy though,
well, because he will get hit a lot of times. At ability 3, he's going to get hit, and then he's just a power 4 kind of chumpy. But when he sticks around when he doesn't get hit and he sticks around for the entirety of his stats, dropping him for 2 force as a react is pretty solid.
That's true. I agree with you, Reed. The other guy though, I'm definitely looking for different ways to kind of abuse him for that ping damage. Anyway, you have these standard sort of decks where you can increase the damage output a little bit. Is always good. Plus, maybe he opens up some new options as well. So yeah, these cards are interesting. Always good to see more resistance people. As far as that goes, I guess that's really about all I have for that. Any sort of closing thoughts for either of those two?
Nope.
All right. We skipped over Ken Kian, the matching pilot for a snub fighter. When he's on one, he draws a destiny if not able to otherwise. An opponent may not substitute battle destiny draws here. So, I guess.
Yo, whose card is this?
Someone with the same initials as King Kia.
Kyle Kruger.
There you go.
All right. No?
Actually, it's not. Wait a minute. I'm wrong. I think there was like a little bit of a custody battle, but I don't believe it's Kyle's now that I think about it.
Huh. Well, that's weird. Anyway.
It might be Bill. It might be Bill's.
Huh.
Bill has 2 cards in this set?
It's possible.
Good for him. So this card, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. I guess I could see some play, right? Maybe.
Yeah, he's like a Merrick Steel mirror, but he's got any matching ship really, so you can find him a little bit easier. I think he would see play in Snub Fighter Squadron Assignment decks. He doesn't not work on something like Home 1, so you can't just throw him into any deck space and cancel Watch Your Back. But I think he'll see play in a number of different Squadron Assignment decks.
All right.
No comment.
Okay. Reed has no comment. You know, it's interesting. He is he's a rebel. He's not a smuggler. So 2 of the more common, decks that use Squadron Assignments, Watch Your Step iterations, and We Have a Plan aren't able to use him. Not that they necessarily need it, maybe, but yeah, this guy might fit in some different spots. Don't have a lot to say about him.
Is Anakin ship a Snub Fighter? The Azure Angle?
No, technically not.
Yeah, so that guy's a guy. Now we got Sabine Wren. I read on one of the threads, this is probably not going to be on Explosive Charge Virtual, which is good. I think indoor, not a very prevalent set, all things being equal. So an uncommon.
What the heck? Dude, I spent $20 on 10 of those on eBay.
That's what you get. I believe it's going to go.
Come on. Stop it.
Yeah, I think it's going to go in Infantry Mine, which I believe is a comment from Hawk.
Yeah, that's good. Well, just, I mean, more.
Oh, nice. I got a bunch of Japanese infantry mines.
There you go.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like 1, Explosive Charge. You use a few copies maybe in a Rebel Strike Team deck already. 2, at some point you might want to make some sort of Explosive Charge for her. So it would be weird to have to, have 2 or 3 with her picture on them and then some without. So anyway, female Mandalorian Scout, power 4, ability 2, armor 5, deploy 3, forfeit 6. When firing a blaster or rifle, target for free, add 2 to the total weapon destiny. If with an Imperial or 2 rebels, whenever you win a battle here, opponent loses 2 force. Immune to hidden weapons. Alright, so ability 2 rebel, so she gets the bump from insurrection, which is pretty cool, to a forfeit 7 if you're playing combo, might be useful.
I think she's the only character outside of Wedge that can get up to an 8 with non-combo insurrection.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet.
So, I mean, for us uninitiated, I know this chick is a big deal in the universe, but where is she from?
Mandalore.
She's Mandalore. She's from Mandalore.
Like from what canon? Like she's from Rebels?
She's from Rebels, yeah.
Alright. She's a pretty big deal then from that show.
It's a pretty big deal.
Because, to be elevated into Wedge tier, where you can become forfeit 8 with insurrection, you'd have to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Especially since she has a defense value of 5.
Yeah, I really like
power
this card.
4.
Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
Oh no, just saying. Also her power of 4. She's in many ways, I would say above Wedge actually.
Yeah, no doubt about it. For your extra 1 force, you're getting massive number value. Now, the Destiny doc notwithstanding, nothing beats Wedge's Destiny 4. But this card is superb. She's a scout, so obviously an easy pull chain to get this chick in your hand. And being a rebel of ability 2 provides for a lot of interactions, like the insurrection, like she goes straight into Diplo. And then her game text is just like three hits in a row, with the biggest one being the damage. I mean, I'm not like a big goofy blaster rifle kind of guy, but I know like people are salivating at the prospect of playing a stun blaster on her or whatever. And I'm sure there's probably even better options than that. And even going forward, like D&D's gonna have to watch out to not ever make a card as good as Legacy A2 180 sharpshooter rifle.
Yeah, we actually talked about the non-V A280 sharpshooter rifle already. She can do some damage with that too, but all in all, I mean, I think she's a great card. I think she'll go right into my Diplo. I think the Stun Blaster idea is pretty cool. I actually would entertain trying that out too, just because the Stun Blaster I think is a 4 Destiny already. I think that's pretty cool. I'm excited to try this one out.
Yeah.
Stun Blaster's a 3 Destiny.
Okay. Yeah.
Is this right that she does not add to the power of stuff she pilots?
That's correct.
Isn't she any good at piloting in the show?
She does a little bit of piloting. She does, so in one of the later seasons, she does pilot, I believe, an A-Wing, if I'm not mistaken. But for the most part, she doesn't. She kind of sits literally in the back seat to Hera.
All right. Well, yeah, this card will get a lot of play. I think we're all sort of in the lead, on that. But it's not, it's not necessarily one that you just throw willy-nilly into every deck, but there are several decks where she'll have some interactions. It'll be pretty useful, I think. So that's cool. This will
kind of continues to kick entanglements while it's down. Like, you guys nerfed the objective, and then this card comes out, and this card is really brutal against that.
Yeah, you'll be winning a lot of battles against entanglements, making them lose a lot of force, so it does hurt.
Entanglements really can't afford that kind of force loss either. Like, if you can win 2 battles with this chick, like against an entanglements deck, like dealing that extra 4 force loss out of nowhere, it's just really tough for an entanglements deck.
Interesting to see what becomes of entanglements with some new cards and some of the changes. Whether they'll still get played, people will adapt, or if they'll move away from it, try out some other things maybe.
I think the Errata will have a minor impact on the regular Walker's build, and obviously it'll have a significant impact on the Trooper build. The Trooper build was pretty much not even played at Nationals. I think it showed up on Friday night only. So, yeah, I mean, it's targeted at the Troopers, but I think it might just slow things down a little bit against the Walker's version because they can't get cheap pilots out first turn, or they can't get a ATST with Piet on Executor. But all in all, I don't think it's going to affect the Errata alone, at least. Won't affect IE's playability. Overall, in my opinion.
So, all right. So then we have a Yoda. Some of the text here reminds me of there was an old virtual Yoda. But essentially, I mean, it seems like probably the intent is mainly a mind what you have learned helper, but it is probably worth noting that he can deploy anywhere, and he's immune to attrition, so that's not to be necessarily overlooked, especially with the reset. It was kind of a thought that there should only be so many completely immune people on each side of the force. That's why like Mace got changed and stuff like that. So yeah, the uses in mind you have learned are pretty obvious. Any thoughts from either of you on if he would fit into any other sort of existing decks?
Well, did you forget about Yoda, Keeper of the Peace? Because we already have that goes in every deck except Diplo, if you want a fully immune Yoda.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. I was just pointing out, that I think you're right that the other Yoda is probably just better. So this really that probably answers the question, I suppose. This really is going to be limited to a Mind What You Have Learned deck. So I guess with that,
oh no, I think he'll be great in Diplo. I think this guy's going to be really good in a flipping version of Diplo because of the complete immunity. And power 3 is just enough, and he draws on his own. And then, like if you're getting plus maybe 3 from your objective to your total battle destiny, then this dude can no doubt he can totally hold a site.
Alright.
And he's cheap too. He's cheap, and if you can't hit him, you're definitely not beating him down if you can't hit him. And Diplo does play the keep your eyes open also. So if they come at him with lightsabers. What I don't like about the card is actually its kind of its intent, like to go along with Mind What You've Learned. Mind What You've Learned is a very delicate theme that, in order to make work, needs pretty much complete to probably about 60-70% overhaul. And unless there are other plans in place for other stuff to do with Mind What You've Learned, but now if we do end up doing any other helpers for that objective, they're all going to have to revolve around what was done with this one card in this one set. So I don't know. Do you have any other plans for Mind What You've Learned stuff in the future, Matt?
So I don't know if you guys knew this, but this is also a player card. But we have talked about Mind What You've Learned and what we could do to fix it. This card we liked when we saw it from the player, and we wanted to try it out, see how it tested, and also to kind of build around this whenever we do build out Mind What You've Learned in the future, which we've talked about. There's no concrete plans at this time, but we've had some discussions on how to make Mind What You've Learned more of an interactive deck to get some battlegrounds out and not have it kind of turtle so much for the first 5 turns.
The cancel and redraw is pretty cool though, and I think there's already been some discussion on the forums about testing to 1 or testing to 3, doing halfway testing just to get that text online. And yeah, it's something that might be worth playing around. I mean, playing around with like starting off giving up 2 icons as Mind What You've Learned does is really dinky. Like a 2/2 force generation starting ratio is just so brutal to overcome. But you can pretty much ace the first 3 tests in no time, and then you get all the benefits from those tests, and also now you get this super cool once per turn cancel and redraw. So yeah, it might be something like, if I had to project where that would land on a tier list, I would say low, or well, maybe high tier, well, mid to high tier 3. But it gives people something to play around with anyway.
Yeah, new fun toys.
Yeah.
Competitively though, this guy definitely, don't you agree, Matt, that this guy definitely has a spot in Diplo?
I think it's a good consideration, yeah. I mean, the full immunity, like you said, and the inability to get beat down because of your battle destiny is a good point. And energetic presence as well, and he could maybe do some damage with Hope 1.
Let me ask, do you guys know, I guess this is maybe more for Matt, the graphics people, are they going to be making white border and black border versions of, there's a lot of cards that have white border Yoda, and then the Help Me Obi-Wan that we're going to get to, and some others. Will we be able to play white border cards with white border slips, or is that...
The PDF generally just has the black bordered versions, unless it's a card like Kylo that only exists as a white border other than the foil. But you can always use VKit to print out white bordered V-slips of any card you want. And that even includes cards that don't have a white border underlying card. So if you love white bordered cards, like I know Tom Haid definitely loves them, you can print out your whole deck in white bordered cards. It's a wonderful site. Highly recommended.
How about that, Brad? Does that rock your world or what? Brad's like, where's VKit been all my life? I could have been playing with whiteboarded virtual cards for all of my virtuals.
And Reed and I go back and forth. Reed hates whiteboarder. Nate Meeker hates whiteboarder. I love whiteboarder.
I love whiteboarder. I'm with you, Brad.
Yeah. I have used VKit actually to make whiteboarder cards before. It's been a while since I printed stuff, so I had forgotten about that. Yeah, VKit's a great resource, so definitely check that out.
Ray, whiteboard solo floating around. I use them all the time.
My gosh. All right. Well,
so, guys, let me just say, I've got about 10 minutes. So we're on the effects and interrupts part. If we could try to wrap up in 10 minutes, that would be great.
Oh man, he's got to tend to Addie.
All right.
I have an unwell cat.
Okay.
So you went online and Rebel fleets were expensive, is that right?
No, they were not expensive. They were not available.
Crazy.
So,
and you don't think that if you had stuck with this card on Rebel Fleet, then they would have become available?
No, I do not.
Oh,
and if they did become available, I think they would be about $10 to $15 a piece.
Wow, that's crazy. And they say the card availability is not a problem.
Yeah. To give some background, this card originally was Rebel Fleet B, and once I looked up how many Rebel Fleets were available to the player base on the internet, I found that the answer was none, except for a few on eBay, which was not quite a reliable source of it. So we made the move to switch to a Cloud City rare instead of a special edition rare. We had some trouble finding the right image for it. I thought Rebel Fleet was a great image for it. Haven's pretty good too, and we changed the name to a Rogue One quote to kind of fit with the whole theme here. So this card is like an established control / mobilization points mirror. You can pull a system, you get extra generation and docking days. I love this card too. It's probably my second favorite.
Shall we evaluate it simultaneously with the broken ship that it pulls?
Yeah. That's the one I was really interested in some feedback on. That ship seems absurd.
How abusive is a ship? Like, I'm not going to ever want to deploy to space as a dark side player.
Yeah.
Even if they don't start the effect?
Yeah, even then, like, how do I know they don't have this, that they're just going to bomb on me for 2 force? It's ridiculous.
It's a good card for sure.
Go back and watch the game of, let's see, what was it? The game that took place after my game of hate. So it was Chris Kelly and Greg Shaw, and Greg Shaw was playing, this was a Nats in the semifinals. Greg Shaw was playing IE, and Chris Kelly bombed on him at the system with Queen's Royal Starship, Rick in the Queen's Royal Starship, which, as I learned, is apparently just boostering Pulsar Skate with slightly better numbers. Now imagine if he didn't have to pay 5 force for that ship, and he only had to pay 2 force for a massive Power 6 capital. That would have been another character he could have put on there, and bombed on Greg Shaw even worse.
Yeah, and don't forget that it's a Mon Calamari Star Cruiser, so your drains are +1 with launching the assault.
Oh, sweet.
Right, so is this really what Lightside needs? More good cards for Lightside. So we're talking about the profundity. If for those following at home, if you have your spoiler list handy, it's a 6 power ship that deploys for 6, but -2 to a system opponent occupies, and -4 if that's an opponent system. And then it's a Star Cruiser, so it's got all this capacity, just no immunity, and the pilot has ability to.
And it's got capacity for Cannon 4 or
Corvette even, yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, so in decks that are going to start this Rebellions or Build on Hope, they're definitely going to play the Profundity, and then, they're probably going to play one of these systems, but if they opening hand it, just grab the ship, or against some people, maybe just don't even, if they give you a system, just go get the ship immediately. Yeah, pretty interesting.
So the effect actually, I think, is going to have a bigger impact on deck building overall, because I think it does open up a lot of possibilities. It gives you a little bit more of an activation base, something to consider with some docking bay decks. Pull a system, which is something that Lightside couldn't do for free before. So I'm interested in trying this effect in a lot of different things like Throne Room or Diplo or maybe even OA and some of the things like that. I think this effect's going to open things up a lot for light side.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I guess that's all really to say on that. Do we wanna just skip some of the cards, or do we just want to try to rapid fire through all of them real quick? What do you
Let's
guys?
rapid fire them.
Okay.
Knock him out. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi is broken. It does way too much. I can take care of myself. It's cool. Wait, is that a player card or a design card?
Which one?
The female card, I can take care of myself. That's really cool. That's a cool card.
The design card.
Yep, and it's a great like multi-purpose interrupt, and it's balanced by a nice decent Destiny 4. Good card. They're tracking us is an awful card. No, I mean just kidding. It's great. We need a program trap counter. It's about time. It's a little unoriginal with the basic dark time mirror, and you know how much I love mirrors. Shoot. This is my ship we would have to evaluate with the ship and the chick. Hera doesn't draw Destiny right on her ship.
No, she does not.
Yeah, so and all these other cards that this is my ship pools we don't have except Kanan needs to be. No, but help me Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wow, that card does a lot.
Yeah, that's Mike Anderson's card, right?
What's that?
It works against Greedo, it works against Elsic, it works against any battle droid.
Any droid in the world.
Any droid.
Yeah.
And then adding a Destiny is super far-reaching, and of course Obi-Wan. I mean, you can already add a Destiny with Rebel leadership. Obi-Wan with very commonly played cards, leadership, and this, he can be drawing 3 Destiny in a battle by himself. And of course, I'm thinking like this card in Watch Your Step specifically because you can play it and then play it again.
True.
Yeah. It's a good place for it.
Also,
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
It's a 3 Destiny, and it's also a hologram. So if you play Escape Pod, you can pull it with that, I believe.
Oh
Wow.
Wow. That's
No, Escape Pod doesn't pull holograms, right? Or it pull projections still. It just pulls Digerics, right?
I mean, why didn't we fix that with the reset?
We did, didn't we? That's what I'm saying.
You're right. Yeah, actually, Escape Pod doesn't pull holograms, just Digerics or holocytes.
Huh. Cool. It also randomly cancels a react, which may not come up a ton, but it's a card that's not Sense that cancels a react. So
It's gonna come up against Matt's Saber 4, his favorite card.
yeah.
Love the Saber 4.
Yeah, why didn't you do something to get rid of the react canceling on this text so you could play your Saber 4 with impunity?
I actually kind of like a few extra cards that cancel reacts. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Sort of jumping around.
Luke's hunting rifle, was this made by somebody who doesn't like Arctic Wii?
I actually don't know if this person likes Arctic Wii or not, but it is a player card.
Yeah, this works on Owen and Baru, right? Like the 450 thing. Okay, cool. So this is my ship. So if all those guys are in play, you can do like +8 to your total battle destiny. Is that right?
Talk about a card that needs a limit.
Yeah.
It's I guess it could probably use like a limit like what's it called? Take the Initiative has, which is a +6. A limit that would never actually see use because you're never going to have all 8 of them in battle together.
Yeah, or the limit on Savage that's never going to see use because you're never going to have 5 Sith characters at a location and then still want to deploy Savage.
I'm now determined to make a non-unique Sith character.
You can, but that wouldn't make it a good play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe just the last thing I would say on these cards, the Ghost, not very impressive by itself, but potentially the Phantom, if that's real good, it's another card that can pull it, potentially. So that, I would guess the Phantom will be down the road at some point. Is that something that's already being developed, Matt?
The Phantom actually might come out in the next set or two. We have some ideas for it. But you know what? Now, as we're talking about this, I actually have to go back and check. And this card may have actually been changed since the spoiler came out. So I will.
Interrupt. This is my ship.
Yeah, this is my ship. I'll have to look at that and tell you what I'll do is I'll bump the roundtable thread if it has been to let all the viewers know. So if you're listening and you're curious, I'll post it in there as well. I want to double check on that.
What's the changes? It's still going to have the pool?
It's going to have the pool. It would be the lost section that was changed, and it may have been changed. You know, I don't want to make conjectures because I've seen a lot of different versions of cards. And
the pool was sneaky. The pool is kind of sneaky. Maybe good. It's kind of like a Bone's Eye in interrupt form that you can put in any deck. Now, as we discussed, Hera doesn't draw on her own, but you're getting the ship and the chick for -1, so you should have enough force left over when you do this play to slap somebody else on there.
All right, so I'm looking back, and this card will be changed, but there's two options we're still kind of floating around. The first option says if all of your characters in battle are these characters, they each add 1. And then the other one says if they're in a battle, they each add 1. So it doesn't limit it to you only having these characters. But both changes involve not requiring the ship or not adding the ship anymore. So it's not so easy to stack like Hera on a ship is +2 to your destiny.
Okay.
So the ship will be removed most likely.
All right. I guess the last card, just the Jakku docking bay. Just really another option maybe for old allies.
Yeah, what's up with that card? You guys were like talking about it.
So basically, Steve Skilton whined for a long time about getting this card. I say whined with love. And we finally gave it to him. He thinks it would open up a lot of builds for old allies.
Just a docking bay. Just a docking bay for Jakku.
It's just a docking bay for Jakku.
Okay. He says so.
I'm eager to see it. I mean, docking bays are a weird thing for design nowadays because we're so conscious about how many cards we're releasing, and it's like it's just a docking bay. But you know what? Sometimes these kind of locations are needed. So I'm happy to get these out there and see if they even have a place with people playing Insurrection, or maybe with the new Rebellions Are Built on Hope effect,
or maybe just Ketwolf with a docking bay that you can deploy if you need to. That could be the actual grand scheme.
I feel like the quality of the broadcast got better once Matt announced that he only had 10 minutes left and we started doing things in rapid fire fashion. That should be the format, yeah, from here on out.
We're gonna open
jump
up
all around the list.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, this one did go pretty long. I mean, I think in terms of actual time we spent, the last one took a little longer, but that was because we had a 30-minute sort of interlude right between light and dark because of the computer crash. So yeah, this one we're over 2 hours of just straight pure discussion, which pretty good discussion.
Sheer quality content.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll go faster next time. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I just said the set's a lot bigger this time than it was in set 6.
That's true. So, all right. Well, that's all I have. Hopefully, next set we'll see a Boar Gullet, maybe a Galen Urso as an MBO helper. This Kylo objective. Who knows?
Galen Urso was a bad guy. Galen Urso's an Imperial.
Oh, he's a good guy.
Make him both. He's like Lando, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Dark side version help pick
He's gonna be a flip character.
That'd be sweet. I mean, you laugh about that, but if Matt's bringing in stuff from Wars, are we gonna start having inverters?
I love inverters actually. I've thought about that a few times.
Yeah, you could have done inverter with the Falcon, I guess, in the Jakku deck.
Flip was way better.
I wanted to flip Han Solo that said, like when Rey's the rebellion hero, and she's like, no, the smuggler or whatever. There'd be one side where he's a rebel and one side where he's a smuggler, and you just start him with the flip Falcon. I guess we could still do that maybe somehow. It'd just probably be no image at that point. It'd just be the 8th different iteration of Jabba's Prize Virtual somehow.
I like that.
17 lines of text. But yeah, okay. Well, thanks, guys. I will.
My pleasure.
Google how to get.
Props to Bradley for putting it together.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate. I think folks do appreciate sort of the different perspectives. Matt with the design perspective, Reed with the top competitive player perspective, and me just kind of along for the ride here. So, yeah, we'll get this saved, get it published, so it's in the archives for all time, and I hope everyone enjoys the set. I guess really, is there a big event before Worlds, or will Worlds be kind of the first giant event with all these cards legal?
Worlds is the first major. There's some other locals and
There
regional.
could be like some regionals, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're actually. I was talking with our buddy JPB, and he's working on putting together a sealed deck Ohio State's tournament. He came across some premier starter.
Bro, I usually know when he's trolling and when he's not, but I really could not tell if real or troll when he posted that thing about playing sealed with Dagobah packs.
Oh, he definitely purchased the Dagobah packs and the premier starters. So, and I think he might have even bought the. He's been looking at buying the States kit or whatever. So I think he's pretty serious about it. So
Yeah, you know what you see? You open a pack of Dagobah, like 3 creatures and 3 green cards and some Dagobah locations, and if you're lucky, a Lieutenant Vinka.
If you're lucky, you'll see an insert. That's what you'll see.
The inserts aren't any good if you don't have characters to put on a table.
You just want to zuck it.
All you need is if you get 3 characters in your premier packs and you get an insert, you win the game.
Yeah, Waisoela would be pretty good, I guess, right?
There you go. Yeah. Tell you what, Brad, I love sealed, but I'm not even sure if I could do that.
Fair enough. Well, more info about that event soon. Matt, I know. I think we've been 10 minutes here. I don't want to take any more of your time. Fellas, thanks again. Always a good time.
Brad, Reed.
Later, dudes, I'm going to go watch the video of me beating Tom Haight in the top 8 at Nats for the 50th time.
Cool.
I was going to say you're going to watch that a lot.
I'm going to go watch the video of Tom Haight beating you at Worlds. Have a good night, everybody.
I've never watched that one. Later, guys.
Yeah.